Hi gals, it's Angel, your Kentucky Fried Gal and your virtual bestie, back with a Gyaru 101 video. Welcome to my Gyaru 101 series, where I explain to you everything you need to know about Gyaru all in one place. Now before we get started, I am typically a Twitch streamer streaming cozy games and anime-style games, and I also, of course, am a Gyaru. I love Gyaru fashion, sharing all of the knowledge that I have in my little noggin with you, so that you can have all of the information in one place, as well as clearing up some misconceptions that kind of float around on the internet in the gal circles. I'm filming part 2 in order to help you understand what each Gyaru substyle is, from the most popular to the most niche that I personally know of, as well as what magazines and other media you can find references for these. Also, make sure you stay tuned to the very end, where I will be answering questions submitted by you all in my comments. Now, let's get started. The first thing that I want to cover before getting into actual substyles is going to be Ko-gyaru versus shiro-gyaru. This is tan gyaru versus pale gyaru. This is more of a style misconception rather than a substyle in itself. These terms each have fashion styles associated with them, but aren't typically substyles in themselves. Ko-gyaru basically is any gal with a tan or that tans. That's as simple as it gets. It can be Manba, Yamanba, and Tsuyome. Black or POC gals are fitted into this term as well. Now, I just listed off a bunch of substyles, and we will be covering all of these, so just wait before you are like, what is that? What is she talking about? I don't know. Now, before tanning in any capacity, ensure that you research on safe and proper tanning methods. We don't want a little burnt crispy gal out here. We don't want to be getting sunburns. We don't want to be getting skin cancer later down the line. So stay safe, stay careful, but also stay you. Shiro-gyaru is just any gal that's pale or that does not tan, like yours truly. This can be any style like Agejo, Amekaji, Himekaji, or Hime, and any other style that doesn't really require a tan. The second thing that I need to clarify, the second misconception about substyles, is eras, not styles. We all love to throw around the terms Heisei and Reiwa, and everybody kind of uses them like they're their own substyles, but they're also not actually substyles. When we talk about Heisei gals, we're talking about any gal from 1989 to 2019, which is the Heisei era. In Japan, eras are classified by the emperors. Reiwa, on the other hand, is from May 2019 to present as I'm filming this, 2026. Now, these are not substyles, of course. They are ways to describe certain periods in time, but because of that, it also helps us describe what kind of gyaru we're talking about. Heisei and Reiwa are more of style categories. Most gals don't really label substyles anymore as of Reiwa styles, which is why we all just refer to it as Reiwa, because it's also recent to really classify individual substyles and individual trends, because it's only really been since 2019. Substyles are really only important for new gals just starting out to understand the composition and the breakdown of what makes gyaru fashion look like gyaru, which is the silhouettes, the patterns, the cuts, the makeup composition, hair colors and hairstyles, etc. Or those wanting to dress in a traditionally popular gyaru trend, that they are deeply in love with a certain look or a brand and want to preserve certain looks of the Heisei era, or they just want to go all out with what they love. Basically, think of substyles as interest maxing, if you will. Substyles are literally just girls that took what they love, took what their passion was, and went all the way to the absolute max for it, and then brands latched onto it and they were like, oh, people are interested in this. This is gonna sell. Brands curated styles around these popular trends, and then substyles were born. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's go ahead and start on our substyles. I did take notes on the substyle based off of the substyle itself, the dates, and the corresponding magazines in which you can find your references for each substyle, so you know where to look. Now, the first style we're starting with is the first form of gal that ever exists, which is Amuraa or Amuro gal. Roughly, this is during 1995 to 1999, and it's any magazine featuring Namiya Amuro. There were a lot. This style is basically anything Namiya Amuro did and wore, and then just copying it on yourself. This is tan, wearing mini skirts and platform boots, watching her music videos to get fashion inspiration. Basically, all gyaru was at this point was, oh my gosh, I idolize Namiya Amuro, I want to look like her, and then they proceed to try to get her style. Now, the next one I'm going to cover is just going to be Gyaru-o, because we can't forget about the men. They don't really have any substyles, they're just called Gyaru-o. Men are kind of very niche in gyaru, so there's not a lot of things covering for them, but Gyaru-o can fit into any substyle at any point. Gyaru-o is just gyaru for men. This can be found in Men's Egg and in Soul Japan magazines, and any style of gyaru that is worn by a man automatically makes it Gyaru-o. It can be Manba, Yamanba, or a classic Gyaru-o vibe with a simple Tsujimori male hairstyle, little to no makeup, usually almost always the eyebrows are done though, tight skinny jeans, tees with blazers are very popular in Gyaru-o, chunky jewelry, belts, etc. Lots of masculine accessories that are still glammy. Cross necklaces and chains are also popular. Again, if you consider yourself a man and you are masked presenting, but you also do gyaru, you're Gyaru-o. Now the next substyle to pop out after Namiara Amuro would be Ko-gal or the high school gals. Now this is where I kind of have to go a little bit more in depth because the following styles are really mostly about age range and less the fashion that you're wearing. So Ko-gals are high school gals. Then you have a category called JK gal. Now JK gal is referring to any gal that is experimenting with gyaru fashion and is of age to be in middle school. This is anywhere from, this started in the 90s all the way to present. These started off as girls copying Namiya Amuro, they just had different age demographics. All of them were typically seen in like modified school uniforms with tans, lighter makeup that could still pass as gyaru, but were also acceptable in some schools because, as we all know, Japan has really tight restrictions on makeup and cosmetics, especially for younger people. So the kind of makeup that a lot of women were able to wear to school is not the all-out gyaru makeup that we do now, and a lot of the time girls would go in with very minimal makeup and then after hours they would gal themselves up. Now if these girls could get away with it, some of them would even bleach their hair to be any form of shade lighter than the natural Japanese black hair. That could be a light brown, that could be blonde, that could be more of like a golden blonde. Any type of bleaching and hair lightening was kind of the trend. This style includes the popular mini skirts with loose socks look, rolling the hem of their skirts so that their skirt was a little bit shorter, turning into more of a mini skirt, with other elements of school uniforms like button-ups, cardigans, school bags, basically just turning your school uniform and trying to be a little more gal with it, be a little bit more rebellious with it. Now in the 2020s era, the Reiwa era that we're in, it is often used as the idealistic aesthetic of school uniform cuteness, rather than where Ko-gals actually started, with just trying to modify the uniforms that they already had. Now, all of these categories of young girls that were Ko-gals in high school to JK gals in middle school eventually evolved to where we even have chibi gal. Now, a chibi gal is more of a Reiwa term because before girls this young were not really participating in gyaru, and it is quite controversial, but chibi gyaru is basically any gal that is 12 years old or younger. There are special editions of Egg magazine and social media that is dedicated to chibi gals. Though it is obviously very controversial, I do not really support them because it could be media for PDF files at some point, and there is a lot of things going on with Egg magazine where they could be exploiting these girls, and it's not super pretty. They're very cute, don't get me wrong. Their style's absolutely adorable, but the way that they're being treated under Egg magazine is not the healthiest for girls of that age. Now, for us gaijin gyaru who might not be in school anymore, even if you are in school and you don't have a school uniform, any way to describe a school uniform that is not actually a high school student uniform is known as nanchatte seifuku, or a false school uniform. So basically, if you're cosplaying or if you are just dressing up for fun because you think it's cute but it's not actually your school uniform, it's going to be nanchatte seifuku. Now, the next style to evolve would be Ganguro or old school gyaru. This is late 90s, early 2000s. This is where you see deep hands, bleached hair, you're starting to see the more bold white makeup, and it's the next look to evolve from Ko-gals. This is where platform shoes really became extremely popular in this era, and the classic summer aesthetic with like your hibiscus and little beach tote bags really became popular, and where we started to associate it with gyaru today. The most popular magazines that you can find Ganguro in today is going to be Egg magazine from late 90s, then Vivi was also a popular magazine, 90s print Pop Teen, yes, they were doing Ganguro back in the 90s, and a magazine called Ego System. Now let's cover the styles that derived from Ganguro. So these are more of like styles that branched off and became their own thing out of the Ganguro category. Almost all of the following include dark tans, white makeup, tropical motifs, and the popular brand being Alba Rosa. Angelique was also a huge group with lots of presence in quite a few of these styles. Now we're going to get into Yamanba, which is from 2002 to 2004, and this can be found in Egg Egg magazine from this era. A lot of people have a really hard time distinguishing Yamanba from Manba, and I do too, don't get me wrong. But the way that I have came to understand it over all of the research and time and listening to things is usually with Yamanba, you have white above the eyes only, so you'll have it more of like white eyeshadow on your lids up to your eyebrows, that kind of thing. You might have a little bit on the inner corner, but you're not going to be taking it all the way down to the cheeks underneath of the eyes. That is going to be more into Manba. And then sometimes they might include facial stickers. This style includes white or platinum blonde hair and takes inspiration from the Japanese folklore of the mountain hag. This style has the darkest tan possible as well as the whitest hair possible, sometimes featuring even white lips, and some Yamanba even do white contacts. This style can be a little controversial in itself given how deep their tans get, but this is the one that is most well known for the rebellion in Japanese society of trying to do the polar opposite of what Japan considers beautiful. The style did not derive from a racist standpoint, but more of Japanese folklore and defiance. There are quite a few gals who have went a little too far with their tanning. Now, Manba, as I mentioned before, then derived from Yamanba. This is about 2004. And this can be found primarily in 2004 volumes of Egg magazine. This is more of the panda eye effect, where you'll have white around the entire eye, both above and below, onto the cheeks often, as well as the popular nose stripe came in around this time. Big, bright colors of hair and clothing, even neon is popular to see here with dark tans, even more than in Ganguro. This style took summer and went tropical all the way. This style is done from older men hitting on ko-gals, and this was the style that was said to be intended to scare off men. This is the most bold substyle there is. Now, the big misconception where people are sitting here thinking that gyaru is supposed to be unattractive and ugly and scare off men, it only became a thing because of Manba and the Japanese media pushing the idea that Manba was supposed to be a men repellent. And while these gals did the most extreme thing that they could because it would be unattractive to men so that these young girls in high school would stop being hit on so much, they also just thought they looked cool, they looked cute, they looked fun, they enjoyed the way that they looked. And Manba was all about making a statement. Next from Manba, we have Kigurumin, which is kind of a little in-between branch here, which is the early 2000s all the way to about 2004. And this is where the Kigurumi was very popular, and it was very popular to pair it specifically with Manba makeup. Now, Kigurumi, if you don't know, are the animal or character style onesies that originated in Japan. Any onesie loungewear can be worn. It can be cats, dogs, cows, Sanrio themed. I know the Rilakkuma ones are very, very popular. Stitch and other Disney characters are also popular as well. Winnie the Pooh is a quite popular character. So basically, just use any cute onesie that you like. Now, this can be paired with any gyaru makeup or any gyaru hair, but it's most commonly seen with some form of Manba branch. This is often where gals will also start painting the white cat whiskers on their cheeks and load up on the facial stickers. Now that we're in 2004, we get to talk about Banba. Banba is the lightest version. It's the more toned down version than all of the previous ones. It is getting back to the roots of Ganguro and becoming a little bit more polished, a little bit more blended in their makeup. They started to kind of understand how to do their makeup a little bit better, but then they also kind of decided, like, okay, we went a little crazy with the last one. Let's kind of tone it down to make it a little bit more wearable. Banba is basically just Ganguro's little sister that they're very similar with slight differences. Now, from Banba, we can also talk about Romanba. Romanba obviously combines a Manba style with romantic elements, which is Romanba. This was pretty much only seen worn by Katan in Egg magazine, so if you want to reference this, definitely check out Kanae Watanabe, where she would take popular trends in Manba fashion, blending it with pink, white, frills, lace, and all things cute. Now, going from Romanba, we can talk about Hime. Hime is in the 2010s. Yay, we've made it to the 2010s! Hime can be found in the magazines Ageha as well as Kilala, and it is a gyaru style somewhat resembling the silhouettes of Lolita, with big frilly dresses, massive hair, lots of pink and bows. Then we also have tiaras, pearls, and all over princessy glamour. It is as hyper feminine as you can possibly get. It also takes some inspiration from Rococo and Baroque era aesthetics, or you can simply just dress in your ideal of the biggest pink frilly dolly princesses we dream of as children. Now from Hime, this is when we get to Himekaji. Himekaji is also in the 2010s, coming directly after Hime, which is most likely to be featured in Pop Teen magazine. This is called Himekaji, or Princess Casual. So Hime means princess and Kaji is casual. This style is a princess's day off. This is more of a casual day-to-day look from Himegyaru that's less dramatic but just as cute. This is also where Liz Lisa became really popular. They played a major role in this style and had a lot of influence. The most common colors in this style are white, pink, cream, lots of floral prints, a bit of light brown, ruffles, and other things that would be still princessy, still very hyper feminine, very cute, but a little bit more casual and a little bit more accessible. This also has the lightest style of makeup possible in Gyaru. It is very dolly and very simple. Now we get into Roma, which is the 2010s pop teen era that also is very similar to Himekaji, but instead of being a princess's day off, just thinking a romantic soft look. It is usually a bunch of soft browns, creams, and pinks. It's very similar to Himekaji that gives you a soft romantic vibe, but it's a little bit more playful with the neutral colors rather than being super heavy on like the pink and frills still. Yet again, this is another substyle that is primarily just Liz Lisa. I know in the 2010s, Liz Lisa had us all in a chokehold. They were basically running this show. Now let's get into a little lesser known style, but it's called Mori. Mori just means forest. So Mori Gyaru is a style that developed in the 2010s. It was featured in Pop Teen magazine. It's basically just forest style, where the whole goal of this Gyaru is to seem one with nature, be very flowy, have natural colors and floral prints. It's combining Mori-kei and Himekaji in Gyaru. It has a slightly vintage look to it, but it's still rooted in pop teen cuteness. This style is not as much recognized in Japan, but Westerners seem to really like this category. Now, this is going to be kind of a triple threat, if you will. This is going to be covering a Boho, Saike, and Retro American in 2010s, because I don't have a whole lot to say about it because it's kind of self-explanatory. Boho Gyaru is just, it's boho. It's Gyaru makeup plus like Tumblr era boho hippiness. Saike is basically the Japanese term for psychedelic. So Saike is going to be more rooted in the 70s in psychedelic patterns and stuff that looks a little bit more trippy, a little bit more hippie. Boho and Saike are very close and very similar, but Boho, I've noticed, takes a lot more inspiration from the 2010s hippie style of like Tumblr, whereas Saike is a little bit more psychedelic, true to like the Woodstock image that you think of when you think of hippies. Now, Retro American is a little less self-explanatory, but this is basically where you start seeing cowboy hats, cowboy boots. A lot of dresses are really common to have like a gingham pattern, which will be like red and white or like a yellow and white. It's very popular in pop teen. And of course, because it's featured mostly in pop teen, this is another style that basically just has the cutesy, soft, light pop teen Gyaru makeup. Now this next style, I personally am not very well versed in, but that's okay because I'm going to be featuring somebody that is. Now, the next style has been recently brought to my attention by my lovely mutual L. This is called Marine Gyaru, which is, as you would consider, a marine Gyaru. It features a lot of sailor uniforms, and it's a style that I learned about very recently, and thanks to the super lovely, well-informed L, which is my mutual, her explanation is what I would like to share with you all, rather than explaining it myself. Now, go check out L, which all of her links are going to be in the description below, and now, let's get into her explanation of the substyle.
Let's try Marine Gyaru. Marine Gyaru, also known as marine style, is a fashion-based nautical-themed substyle. The oldest magazine I could find referencing this style was from 2006. Since it's a fashion-based substyle, there isn't particularly a style of makeup for it, but it is an Amekaji style, so we know that it's usually toned down. Gyarus weren't strangers to sailor-like tops, but marine style leaned more into the aquatic motifs and oceanic accessories. Red, white, and blue tend to be the main colors, with popular patterns being stripes and polka dots. It seemed like a sister style to Amekaji. The silhouette wasn't concrete, as some gals wear Lolita-inspired dresses, while others prefer a more laid-back, casual style. It seems this theme is making a bit of a comeback outside of Gyaru, so I hope the Gyaru substyle comes back too.
Now, the next style, which is also in the 2010s era. Now, this is a style that is a fan favorite. It is so much fun. We're going to be talking about Amekaji. Amekaji is in the 2010s, and it's mostly featured in Ranzuki magazine. Amekaji means American casual, or a style that's rooted in the stereotypes that Japan has of America. This is highly colorful, there's graphic prints and baggy pants. Sneakers and beanies are important elements and are very common Common motifs are stars, hamburgers, and surf or street aesthetics. Hokolulu was the brand that is the most associated with this style for its colorful American surfer-inspired design. It's a look meant for the everyday, random, poorly translated English everywhere. If you have a t-shirt that is very colorful, very bold, and has a funky little saying on it, it would be perfect for Amekaji. Next is another one that this one somehow has taken TikTok and has a fucking chokehold on this entire just gyaru community. For whatever reason, this is the style that everyone wants to be, everyone wants to just experience, and everybody wants to present themselves as. Every brand that pops up, some reason does this very specific substyle and only this substyle, and we're going to be talking about Agejo. Now, Agejo is found in a magazine called Koakuma Ageha. This is one that TikTok people that don't actually know about gyaru and don't actually do gyaru tend to call McBling gyaru, and I hate that. This is a style that is found in the late 2000s all the way to the 2010s, but more prominently in the 2010s. This is the style that's built for hostesses. Hostesses are basically women that are paid to drink and talk to men. Now, it is different because they are not sleeping with these men for money, but Japan has a very heavy drinking culture, and they also have a very shameful sex culture. So a lot of the time, men will pay to drink alcohol with women, to flirt with them, and to talk with them, even though it doesn't usually lead to more than that. Now, the women that work in host clubs and that do this for a living are called kyabajo. Kyabajo is meaning kyaba, which is from the word kyabakura, which is the place in which the women will drink with the men for money and they will be employed here, and jo meaning woman. So it's basically bar woman. Now, because this is a style that is focused on kyabajo, this has the long, elegant dresses for host work, puffy prom-like dresses as well that are perfect for the occasion, a lot of lingerie and garter belts and sexy clothing, whether you're on work or off work. You are sexy all around. This style is known for its pink and black color palette with butterfly prints, classic Mars designs, some leopard print lingerie here and there, lots of ribbons, and basically everything sexy. This style is also occasionally featuring juicy tracksuits and large hair bows. Now, Agejo can technically be any color if the composition is right. Even though we know pink and black to be the standard, a lot of the time Agejo also features white, blue, purple, and all of these colors usually paired with black in some form. Glamour is your ideal beauty standard to achieve. You want to be the most glamorous when you walk into the room. Of course, the higher the glam, the more money you're probably going to make. Champagne bottles and perfume bottles are also very common prints to see. Curled hair is going to be a staple, and especially if it's curled and teased to be a little bit more voluminous, a little bit bigger. And typically the eye makeup is less eye enlarging, but it's more dark and smoky, a little bit sexy. Keep in mind that this is a style built for women that are primarily just drinking with men in the clubs for money. It's going to be lower lighting, so you're going to wear a little bit darker makeup. It's going to be a little bit sexy, still a little bit cute. But Ageha, the magazine, was really created to showcase to these kyabajo what you can wear on the clock as well as off the clock. Now, this is also why this substyle is very controversial, and I personally would caution anyone under the age of 16 not to wear it because it has a lot of sexual implications, and I think because it features so many things like push-up bras, see-through stockings, thigh highs, garter belts, all these things that are lingerie focused and sex focused, and to be sexy is the whole point. I think it is very dangerous for minors and for children to dress in such a manner. Now, a lot of arguments in the gal community is solely based off of its history, and while I understand it's very important to keep the history alive, I don't think history will dictate whether someone can or cannot wear something. Now, on the other hand, the elements that it features, I personally do think that minors should stay away from wearing garter belts and lingerie and push-up bras in public, and I don't quite think that's suitable and appropriate, and I think that should be a style that is reserved for girls that are a bit older, a little bit more understanding of the cruelness of the world and the kind of risks that wearing certain clothes put you in. Now, if you're okay with those risks and you're okay with being sexy, you're okay with men being weird and being able to stand up for yourself is something that you're capable of, by all means, wear what you want to wear. But I think anyone that is a minor does not have the ability to protect themselves to be able to wear the clothing like that they would like to. so I personally think it is best suited for 18 and up. Now, the next style is also another one that is very popular online. It's very popular on TikTok, and I was actually asked in the comments if this was a substyle, and so let's get into Tsuyome. Tsuyome is from the early 2000s and the 2010s. Primarily, the biggest era for this was in the 2010s. Tsuyome derives from the word tsuyoi, and tsuyoi is meaning strong in Japanese. It's a term that was developed to describe a woman that is very strong-willed, because often the way that women would be considered tsuyoi in Japan would be more derogatory, and so it would be like, oh, they're not like the humble, docile, innocent women that I want them to be in Japanese society. So if you're a woman and you get called tsuyoi, it usually is like, oh, you're too strong, you're like not good enough, like, oh, you're gonna be too problematic. Which this ended up being turned into tsuyome, which was a fashion style for a lot of girls that had this attitude about them, the gyaru mindset. They would dress a certain way, and this style kind of evolved into its own thing. Now, this is commonly associated with the brand Daya, and it has a very similar fashion style to Banba. It is a little bit like Ganguro, but it's a little bit more toned down than the other derivatives, and it is most commonly seen with cheetah print, leopard print, brown and black clothes, as well as white clothes. The huge chunky Daya belt also features a lot of leg warmers, big heels or platform shoes. Also, this is the style that is primarily known for the really big Sujimori hair, which is a staple, but also features some more standard hairstyles like a simple long curled style. This style has the extreme look of the very, very long gyaru nails, and it is a style of Ko-gyaru. To be Tsuyome, you do have to tan because it is only really associated with Ko-gyaru. Now, fun fact, that the most larger than life Tsuyome hair is done by professionals in salons, or if you're doing it at home, it's always done by wigs and hair pieces. It is rarely ever achieved on natural hair, and it almost is impossible to achieve it on natural hair alone unless you have very thick, very long hair. But anytime you see big Sujimori, just automatically assume that it is a wig or some form of hairpiece, hair extension, etc. Now, the next style is another style that tends to get misconstrued a lot on the internet. Some reason on TikTok, scene gyaru has become a thing recently instead of using the term Haady. Now, Haady Gyaru is from 2009 to 2011, which translates to flashy. Haady basically just means flashy style. Now, Kaoru Watanabe basically made the style popular with her fashion brand JSG. Now, this style often combines black as your staple with a lot of neon colors and bright colors incorporated in, a lot of big flashy patterns. Sometimes it'll feature colored or patterned tights, and it has a very 80s British punk rock and scene kid vibe to it. As an ex-scene kid, I would know. But Haady Gyaru is definitely not one of the more common ones and not one of the ones that you're more likely to see, so you do have to do a little bit more digging, and it's a little bit harder to find it. You basically can find examples of this most likely in a 2010s or 2011 magazine, most likely yet again in Pop Teen. Now we're going to do a quick mention to a very, very small little niche style called Cyber Gyaru, which is a style that was developed in 2019, and it's really only worn by one person, and that's Dede. This is where Cyber Gyaru is basically just curated, and it's just her personal style. References for this are basically just found on her YouTube channel, her TikTok, Instagram, and occasionally in Reiwa magazine features. Now returning to our lineup is going to be Rokku Gyaru and Goshikku. Now, this is not emo or punk or B-kei or any other dark alternative style, although it shares a lot of similarities and inspiration. Rokku and Goshikku was mostly deriving in the 2010s, which Rokku just means rock gyaru and gothic gyaru is Goshikku. Goshikku means Gothic. Now, this is one for all of my alt baddies out there, but it is very important for you to study the references to understand the difference between visual kei, which is VK, and Gothic gal. Gothic gal and VK share a lot of similarities, but they're also two very different, very distinct styles, and a lot of baby gals get them confused, get them mixed up, and then if they're trying to do Gothic gal, a lot of the times they end up doing VK, or if they're trying to, blend the two, it can get a little muddy. So just make sure that you understand the difference between the makeup primarily and what differentiates visual kei from Gothic gal. Other forms of alternative like punk are heavy inspiration for Rokku Gyaru. This is most commonly a shiro gyaru style, and British punk elements are common to see, as well as black, leather, lace, boots, skulls, a red lip, and a black eyeshadow. Makeup is almost always dark and heavy. Most common colors are black, white, and red, of course, and then think if Nana was a gyaru. She would 100% fit the bill for Rokku Gyaru. The next substyle I want to talk about is the one that all of us refer to once Halloween starts rolling around. It is super niche, super uncommon to see. Not a lot of people do it. Ishoku hada gyaru is such a fun style of gyaru. Ishoku hada means unique skin. So Ishoku hada gyaru means a gyaru that has an unusual skin tone. Now this is exactly what it sounds like. This style of gyaru incorporates unnatural skin tones and a lot of body paint. It can be any type of bold gyaru makeup and clothing, but focuses on body paint and having an out-of-this-world appearance. This style typically uses a lot of neon, bold and bright colors in clothing and hair with any color of skin. Most popular is blues, greens, and purples, but red, pink, and any other color can be. Now, unfortunately, we do have to talk about some very controversial styles in gyaru that not the best look for us. There is a style called B-gyaru, which I did briefly mention in part 1. B-gyaru, as of now, is reserved for black girls only. Not Japanese gals, not anybody. If you are not black, do not do B-gyaru. This is simply just to be respectful and not be racist, and if you are still questioning it after that, check your morals. B-gyaru is coming all the way from the 90s all the way to 2010s, but it really developed as the style that it is in the 2010s. It is one of the most controversial styles to exist, and it is classified by its American black R&B or hip-hop styles, including braids, tight curls, and with the main brand being associated is Baby Shoop, which is very similar to the American brand Baby Phat. Now, I really personally love the brand Baby Phat. I think they're just really cute, very Y2K. So you are able to wear the brands outside of B-kei and be respectful about it. If you do really like Baby Phat and you do really like Baby Shoop, you can still wear the clothing, just don't do the heavy tan with the braids. This one is another very teeny tiny little style that is also reserved for black gals only. Rasta gyaru, or Rasta, is basically what it sounds like. It is gyaru plus Rastafarian aesthetics. This style started in admiration, but it borders the lines of cultural appropriation from Jamaican cultures when Japanese gals wore it. Now let's break away from the controversies and get back to something a little bit more toned down, a little bit more simple and acceptable. O-gyaru, which is older sister, and ane-gyaru, which is rebellious older sister. These are two styles that are primarily found in Nuts or Happy Nuts and Pop Sister. These are the styles that are made for gals growing older and wanting to still be gal, but need to accommodate a more adult lifestyle. One and ane are more for adult women that are not as complex, not as bold, and it is more supportive of their new mature lifestyle. Cat eye makeup is very common and they stay up to date with the current trends. Now, the difference between one and ane is simply that one is older sister, which is basically just your more run-of-the-mill, I'm working a regular job, might be working in a department store, but I still want to be gyaru, I'm in my mid to late 20s and need to get my life together. A lot of the time, o-gyaru is where you start seeing gyaru moms as well, so that when motherhood approaches and you want to be a little bit more mature, but you don't want to let go of the gyaru in you. Ane, on the other side, is a little bit more punk, a little bit more alternative. It's more of the rebellious older sister. While you are still gyaru, you're still taking part in that lifestyle, but you also are approaching a bit of an older age than your, typical younger gals in their early 20s and their high school years, but you still have that rebellious side to you where you still want to be a little edgy. Now, again, for the more mature, sophisticated gals out there, there's a small style called Mode, which is featured in Nuts magazine, which is really only from 2009 and 2010. So that's 1 to 2 years that this style existed, really. It is characterized by the combination of commonly black and white clothing with sleek lines, interesting cuts, bold patterns, and dramatic silhouettes. It's inspired by French mode concepts and high fashion made casual. Brands such as Emoda and Urua made this style popular, as well as more business casual, fashion-forward older gals. This is really where the interest in sophisticated, artsy French fashion came into play. Now, if you are a gal that wants to be a little bit edgier, but doesn't really feel like you fit into gothic or rock gal, and you are a little bit on the older side and you still want to be a bit edgy, this might be a good one to look into, which is Ora Ora. Ora Ora is found in Soul Sister and Soul Japan magazines. It's a substyle where black clothing and being rebellious are the primary focus. It shares similarities with the Yankee culture of Japan, which is basically just Japanese delinquents. The hair can be big and bold, or it can be completely shaved and short. Dark eye makeup is a very heavy focus, and black tracksuits and gals on bosuzoku bikes are extremely common. Leopard print and everything rebellious is incorporated here. This is basically just where you get Yankee culture with Gyaru culture. Now, if you want to know more about Yankee culture to understand Ora Ora a little bit more, feel free to research that. I am Gyaru, I am not Yankee, of course, so I don't really know too much about Yankee culture, but there's plenty of information out there if you do a little bit of research and a little bit of digging. Now, the last substyle that I personally want to mention that I have tried to pull from the depths of my brain that I have also been made aware of is something called serebu gyaru, or celeb. Celeb meaning celebrity. This is associated with a magazine called Blenda, and it took inspiration from Western celebrities such as J-Lo, Lindsay Lohan, and Beyonce. It is Y2K adjacent, and it is incorporating gyaru with popular celebrities. This one is also a very small little micro trend, as it's not really a particular substyle, but it kind of draws back to the roots of copying styles from Namiya Amuro. And if you watched Gyaru 101, you would know Namiya Amuro got her look based off of Janet Jackson and other black artists in the West. Now, I did want to give a quick mention to some other notable magazines for you to check out that aren't necessarily ones that I would mention for a substyle, but are still really famous, really popular Gyaru magazine that can give you a whole new outlook and see some more unique styles as well. Now, for our Reiwa gals that like to tan, Loa Loa magazine is probably your best bet because that is a magazine completely based out of tanning salons in Japan. Another notable magazine would be Jelly, which is the sister of Ranzuki. There's another magazine called I Love Mama, which is a Gyaru magazine for moms, which is a spin-off of Happy Nuts. And as I mentioned in part 1 of this video series, the Betty Hair Bible is for all things hair. It is a wonderful magazine to look at. I love flipping through Betty Hair Bible, even though I don't really do Gyaru hair because I'm not really good at hair, and my hair's short as hell. So now, if you would like to check out a magazine run by Gaitin Gyaru, which is foreign gals, check out Papillon. I don't know if they're still in print anymore. I used to read them a lot when they were first being released. I don't believe they're being made anymore. I could be wrong on that. They might still be, and I just haven't seen them. And last but not least, let's go ahead and mention Vanilla Girl as another one to check out as well. I am not as familiar with Vanilla Girl, but I do know some gals that have read it in the past, and I know that the magazines can be a little bit hard to find. Now I want to clear up some misconceptions yet again, because Gyaru is so full of misconceptions and mistranslations and full of just false information out there. So this is going to be substyles, but not really substyles. They're more of just descriptor terms for categories of gals. Now, TikTok, for whatever reason, loves to take alternative styles and Japanese fashion styles and try to water them down and make them more palatable. And they love to take it and just use buzzwords rather than actual styles and things that people are interested in. One of those happened to be something called Seiso Gyaru, or what Westerners refer to as clean Gyaru. I hate clean girl trends because it just basically is like, oh, I'm a clean girl, I don't like doing makeup, but I want to still be able to be called Gyaru, which I don't really understand, because if you're a clean girl and you don't like to do makeup and you want natural no makeup, but then you want to call yourself Gyaru, why? Why do you want to be associated with girls that do what I do and do like very heavy makeup? And like, I don't get it. I really don't. But Seiso Gyaru is a real style of Gyaru. But Seiso Gyaru is not what you typically think Gyaru is for the TikTok clean girl aesthetic. It's not Gyaru plus your claw clips and no makeup. Seiso Gyaru is like mode and one, and it is a business casual Gyaru, which is appropriate for the workplace, and is not meaning just any Asian or natural style makeup that allow you to be called gal. It is not no makeup. It's still Gyaru makeup. It's still contacts, it's still lashes. It's just a more toned down version that is most likely to have you be employed. A classification term that has been used a little derogatory in the past, but some people like to use it in a joking manner, and it is called o-gyaru, not Gyaru-o, but o-gyaru. Gyaru-o and o-gyaru are different. It's not a substyle, but it's a term we hear frequently online. As I said, it used to be derogatory, but a lot of gals will use it in a joking manner at this point, and it's more funny than malicious. It's a girl that tends to be a little dirty, a little lazy, a little gross maybe. The girls that don't shower often so that you thrive from dry shampoo to make your hair look right. Crusty lashes that never really get properly cleaned, that you just keep slathering on the lash glue again and again. I am guilty of this. And it's for the gals that if you fall asleep in your makeup, you're not bothered, it just makes it easier for the next day. Your room might be littered in cans and cosmetics, you might have an eyelash stuck on your carpet here and there, random glitter everywhere, or maybe a fake nail is somewhere, you never know. If this sounds like you, you might be considered o-gyaru. Now I probably shouldn't be teaching you guys this one, because you're gonna use it against me, and I know this one. O-gyaru, or old lady gal. Alright, I know I'm old, I know, 26 and I'm still looking like this and I'm still doing it. I know I'm gonna be here well into my 30s most likely being like this. O-gyaru, an old lady gal, is a term describing and sometimes poking fun at gals that are a little older than usually expected. This is typically any gal exceeding their 20s. Oba literally means older woman, so it's like if you see a woman that is relatively significantly older than you on the street and you don't know how to address them, like Oba-san or Oba-san or whatever is very common to hear. But then when it's an older lady that's also a gyaru, then o-gyaru has come into play. Now, because I am over 25, there are some gals that would consider me o-gyaru because I'm getting older. Usually gals don't keep going well into their late 20s, but here I am, baby, here I am. Not going anytime soon. I also just want to mention that Y2K gal is not real. Y2K gal would be any substyle between 1999 to 2009, not this like modern Y2K aesthetic that's like stealing the word gyaru for clickbait and combining it with bimbo core. Also on that note, tropical gyaru is not real either. Tropical gal is any style such as Banba, Manba, Yamanba, and Ganguro that heavily include tans, beach attire, and hibiscus motifs. Just because you throw on some hibiscus hair clips doesn't make you gal, and it doesn't really coin the term tropical gal either, because tropical gal is just anything that's tropical themed. So depending on how you do your makeup, how heavy you tan, and what your hair looks like as a tropical gal, you might just be Banba, Manba, Yamanba, or Ganguro. Now, as we're talking about styles and substyles and trends, we also need to discuss the yabi discourse. This is another area that TikTok has become a huge problem with misinformation yet again. Yabi is typically in China a derogatory term for anyone that dresses outside of the usual style in China or anyone with any form of alternative fashion. Yabi is not a term to be simply used like a fashion style, it has really mean roots. While Chinese alternative gals are reclaiming the title and embracing it, it does not mean Chinese gals with questionable makeup skills are not doing a form of gyaru. The makeup that everyone is all up in arms with is outdated most likely anyway. The gals in China have made their makeup better and better over time, and it is rather xenophobic to say you're Chinese with a Chinese take on gyaru, so I'm not going to include you in this culture that I did not create, that is not mine to decide. That's crazy. Gyaru is ever evolving. With each wave of substyle, they were not shunned for trying something new, and that is quite literally how we get substyles, which is just by gals finding something they like, experimenting, and giving it everything that they've got, eventually getting recognized by magazines and clothing brands. When a lot of Western gals do their makeup poorly, they don't get shunned by the community in this way. They keep posting and they keep trying until they improve, or they fizzle out with a fad. But when there's a language barrier, this becomes very difficult for some people online. Now, it is debatable whether this look from China is simply trend hopping for clicks, or if they truly want to be gal and love it for everything that it is, lifestyle and all. There are a few Chinese gals for sure that show the spirit and love it though. Just because a droop is outside of what you expect doesn't mean we should deny them access. And I understand the argument of wanting to preserve gyaru and what it's always been, but what has it always been? Contacts, lashes, bold eye-enlarging makeup with some form of namira bokoro. There is makeup with a droop, without a droop, different size droops. You have open droops like the one that I do that doesn't connect. You have closed droops. You have ones that are thick, that are thin, that have lashes, that don't have lashes. The pop teen and Nanzuki eras look absolutely nothing like any other form of gyaru before, but it is still one of the most loved. Fashion evolves and people experiment with it. Some things stick and stay around, other things don't work out as well and don't gain popularity that lasts in the gal community and gal history. Of course, Heisei gals will always be the gold standard for everyone, and we want to protect that and keep that alive. But we shouldn't get stuck in time and stuck in racism. We should inform and help with growth and improvement. That's how you lose touch and get left behind, because the world changes so quickly nowadays, if you blink you'll miss it. That's the same for the fashion. Now, to conclude this, I do want to mention as well, not every gyaru will fall into a substyle. All a substyle is someone showing who they are and what they're passionate about, and it becoming a trend with a very certain look to achieve. Gals can be in casual sweats or a t-shirt and a denim skirt. They can go all out princess with frills and pink, just simply in cute clothes they find. And you can wear anything with gyaru if you work to make it look gyaru. As long as you have the hair, you have the nails, you have the makeup, and you learn the gyaru silhouette, you can wear anything that you want ever. The gyaru silhouette can be applied to any clothing to look more gal. The traditional classic, like old school Heisei gyaru silhouette typically consists of a miniskirt or denim shorts in any color, any top at all, and a chunky shoe or platform combo with boots, platform sneakers, or sandals, any form of really thick, really chunky platform shoe. Accessories can also turn any outfit into a gyaru one, with belts, bags, hair clips, bows, anything at all. You can make it gyaru with the way that you accessorize. You can also just decide to follow the silhouettes of your favorite substyle, but try it with uncommon colors, uncommon cuts, patterns that aren't typical to be seen, or piece it with something unique. The only thing I would caution against would be graphic tees, because this can be gyaru in like an oversized look paired with a chunky croc or something, but it can be very hard to style it in accord if the print isn't something popular in gyaru culture. Graphic tees that I personally think would work best would be Sanrio and other cute characters like Chikawa, Don Quixote tees, and then tees aligned with like cars, car culture, racing, that sort of thing would also be kind of common to see. But again, a graphic tee can just be really hard to read as gyaru unless you are going all out with the hair, the makeup, and the accessories. I highly suggest just reading a bunch of magazines until it becomes second nature. That would be the best way to understand it. But if you have specific questions and you would like my advice, feel free to ask me down in the comments below. Now, kind of circling back to a couple of topics that I've touched on previously, on that note, something that is common in gyaru does not automatically make you look like a gyaru. The TikTok stereotype of what gyaru is boils down to leopard print, hibiscus, and 90s and early 2000s motifs. Gyaru has so much more to offer than that, and while these things are common to see, TikTok has a certain way of styling that waters gyaru down to like what I would call Shein core, where TikTok thinks anything cheap, pink, and leopard print makes it gyaru. Gyaru does take a little bit more than that in terms of composition, and often TikTok is pulling these trends from K-pop and Douyin and other non-gyaru sources, calling it gal because of a single pattern or a hibiscus. These things can definitely be gyaru, but often needs to be elevated and accessorized correctly and paired with the correct makeup. I will also make a separate video on makeup and how to tell gyaru from other styles like jirai, douyin, etc. So feel free to ask me any cosmetic questions down below, or as well as lifestyle questions down below, and I will cover that in the next part. Now let's get on to some FAQs. One of the questions that I received here on YouTube is there any specific lifestyle of gyaru? And yes, I touched on this in part 1, but here's a more concentrated answer. Gyaru is centered on self-expression, non-conformity, and community. Lifestyle is about a specific mindset or gal mind and not taking yourself too seriously, which I also covered in part 1. But also, it is composed of what your daily habits are and just learning the history. Good thing I taught you a history lesson in part 1, so you're like a third of the way there. We all know that it is based in rebellion and started in the clubs. Lifestyle by large just means taking gyaru into everything that you do. Your looks, your bedroom decor, the way you carry yourself with confidence and passion in your life, and not letting anyone tell you not to be you. Don't get put in the box of social norms and beauty standards. This also means with the history and what gyaru is, the lifestyle usually consists of hobbies or daily habits based on your look and appearance, such as doing your makeup when you can, self-tanning or sunbathing if you're Kuro-gyaru, reading magazines to better understand your look, practicing your nails or your hair, cosmetic shopping, decorating your things with rhinestones and DIY supplies, like Dekoden has like the silicone for like the whipped cream texture, different ribbons, just different stickers, different elements like that. But it is also rooted in music, dance, and community. Doing pada, listening to Eurobeat, and trying out trends online in gyaru community is the easiest way to be a part of both the community and the lifestyle. It doesn't mean drink and party all night unless that's what a certain 21+ gal enjoys. Dancing in your bedroom and listening to gyaru music and videos while doing the dishes still counts too. If you live in a larger city, see if there's any gyaru circles near you accepting applications. As I said in part 1, I have had online virtual circles in the past, but as I live in the middle of nowhere, hanging out in real life isn't really an option for me, and I've kind of aged out of that part of my life where it's not my primary focus anymore, but it might be available and accessible to you. Building a community, building friendships with gals either on or offline, and hanging out with them when possible is probably the biggest part of the lifestyle, connecting with each other in some way. This can be as simple as having gyaru connections and mutuals keeping you in the online communities, or going all the way to joining gal meets. Of course, as gals, we want to learn to be a good friend and lift each other up, being positive forces to each other. The goal of lifestyle is to have fun and embrace whatever styles make you feel confident, sexy, and makes you feel like you. A lot of people, when they hear the term lifestyle, start to think, oh, I have to do certain activities, or I have to live my life a certain way, and it is that way, but it's not as complicated as one might think. Now, another great question that I got was, can I mix styles of gyaru? The example specifically they gave was Mamba makeup with like Amekaji clothes. And this is a complicated question. The specific example of Amekaji and Mamba seemed kind of impossible at first, but the more I think of it, it could be really cool to pair it together. Old Mamba make with the extremely baggy, colorful, flashy clothes could make a really wild impact. It would definitely read as gal, but be very careful when doing so because it could start looking like you don't really know what you're doing and you don't know what your style is, you don't know what you want from your style if you start blending too much together. If you use too many clashing patterns, too many clashing cuts, things that don't quite mesh right, it can get a little bit messy. It gets hard when trying to mix styles because each substyle has a very unique, very specific guideline to them, and if you blend styles together, you might lose important details or start looking cluttered or unpolished and having like a confusing look. But if you take the time to research and get super familiar with the styles you're interested in, I'm sure you could mix and match however you like. But if you're a beginner or a baby gal, I would save that until you feel more confident and more experienced so that it doesn't get lost in translation. Of course, with that said, you must also find styles that have crossover elements. Like Mamba and Himekaji couldn't really work together because it would cancel each other out and it would simply just turn into like Romamba or something. Now, Himekaji should be sweet and soft and dolly, where Mamba should be wild and extreme. And if you don't want to go all out Romamba, it would probably end up here anyway. It's the same with Hime and Amekaji. Hime and Amekaji would probably be a really bad pairing because Hime is very princessy, the dresses are very distinct, very Lolita-esque, and Amekaji is just very casual, very baggy, very loose-fitting. It's not very tailored, whereas Hime would be very tailored. This would just be a bad pairing without the outcome of another style happening, and it would just look kind of wrong and messy. One being super glamorous and the other being super casual, both styles have a very specific feel and color palette that really clash. If you experiment with blending styles, try to only mix styles that have some form of overlap, like bold and bright colors in Mamba and Amekaji. Now, I have been asked several times my thoughts on the white droop, and I have covered this in a TikTok video that I tried to post as a YouTube short, but it was a little bit longer than the YouTube Shorts length is, so I would like to be able to put it here without it being sped up like crazy. So here's my thoughts and my explanation on how to do a white droop and why can't you do a white droop.
Hi gals! Okay, so I got this really great question that I want to talk about and discuss with you guys, so let's dissect it. And I hate talking makeup while not wearing makeup, but you guys get the vibe. The style is almost gone, so we'll be back to normal shortly. First, I want to touch on blending gyaru with other styles because I personally would recommend baby gals to wait to blend styles until they understand gyaru 100% and understand all of the little intricacies as to what makes gal look like gal. Fashion and makeup should represent you and what you feel like on the inside, and it should be a reflection of who you are. But that also means if you want to do a niche substyle that has a lot of history, like gyaru, you also need to make sure that you kind of fit the parameters that that style has so that it looks the way that you're trying to make it look. If you mix too many styles together or even too many substyles of gyaru together, it's not actually going to end up reading as gyaru, especially the way that you probably want it to. So if you do want other people to recognize your style as gyaru and not just be inspired by, but to be gyaru, you have to understand the accessories, the composition, the layering. You need to understand with clothing, like the silhouette and what makes gyaru look like a gyaru outfit, because it's not really necessarily the clothing pieces, but I think it's more of the composition of your outfit and the way it's layered, the way it's styled, because you can make any clothing article look gyaru. You just have to make sure that you know how the layering works, how the styling works to be able to do that. And for a lot of baby girls, you don't really understand all of the intricacies, I guess, of like what makes gyaru look like gyaru. Once you understand the concepts, then it's easier, and then you can show up like as gyaru the way you want it to be portrayed. I think personally that the best way to understand and to study like gyaru is to literally like look at gyaru magazines. You can go to Internet Archive and you can search for any of the gal magazines that you like and flip through those, but get a journal, get a pen, and take notes. Write what accessories, how the accessories are worn, how are the clothes styled, what kind of clothes are being styled, and you know, what places are tucked, what places are tight, like what's the silhouette like, you know, we tend to have a formula of like mini skirt, big boots, like, you know, that's kind of common, but not always. So you kind of have to evaluate every little piece and figure out why the little pieces work together as one. As for the white droop, this is the big question. I personally would agree that baby girls should not do a white droop because it tends to not be done correctly, and it's really hard to make a white droop look gyaru because a lot of the times it ends up looking like these photos. I'll just drop photos here. It looks like these influencers. It looks like doll makeup. It looks like I'm trying to make a costume that represents a porcelain doll or a broken doll, or it gives like living doll and not like gyaru. Like this is gyaru with a white droop, but this is living doll makeup. I, as well as a lot of other people, agree that a white droop is really hard to pull off, and there's not a lot of people in gal history who have done a white droop. It's not saying that there aren't any, but it's not very common, and there's very few people that do it, so it's kind of hard to find a reference of actual gyaru doing a white droop. A white droop really only also goes well with really extreme styles, so the fact that you mentioned Mamba, that would actually be quite perfect, but you have to make sure that you know the composition of the gyaru eye shape and the makeup that you're going for, and pay attention to, is it balanced, like is your white droop balanced with an inner corner white, or like, you know, where's the black that ties into the white that makes it look the way that you want it to look. Now this is not to say that gyaru isn't dolly, because you can have like dolly gyaru makeup like the 2010s look here, but I think you can tell the difference between the living doll makeup and dolly gyaru makeup. Now, a white droop is not to be confused with a namida bukuro or an egyosa, because the white under eye corner in here is your namida bukuro. The white droop is going to be the outer corner here that's filled in with white, so you'll have the droop that goes down with the white on the inside, but you shouldn't do it with a thin line. If you're going to do a white droop outside here, you most likely want it to be balanced for the white on the inner corner and the outer corner, and you want your lines for your dark to be thick. So your droop probably does not need to be a thin little skinny line with a lash on it. It needs to be thicker because that's going to give more of a gyaru feel and less of a living doll cosplay caricature feel. Another thing that I want to mention is that with a white droop, I have only seen it look correct on Ko-gyaru or tanned gyaru. I've never seen it work well on a pale gal. So for a white droop to work, most likely you're going to have to tan, and I know some gals don't want to do that, so if you want to be shiro gyaru or pale gal like me, you probably do not need to do a white droop, and I would only recommend a white droop if you're willing to tan. I personally don't really like the way that a white droop looks because it tends to look very artificial and it doesn't really have a lot of like facial harmony as a makeup style, but just because gals tend to not like a white droop doesn't mean that you can't do a white droop. You just need to be able to do it correctly, and don't stop doing something because of other people's opinions. Just because I don't really like a white droop and a lot of other gals don't like a white droop doesn't mean you can't do a white droop while doing gyaru, but you have to make sure that you're doing gyaru and not living doll makeup. Hopefully this helped, and hopefully this answered questions and gave assistance to any baby gals that need it. But yeah, sorry for the lengthy video, but I hope it helps. Alright, bye guys!
Now, can I do makeup without lenses and without fake lashes? Could natural lashes be enough? Now, this is another question that has a lot of impact. It could be possible theoretically, but in gyaru, lashes both need length, shape, and volume. Lenses really complete a look, tying it all together. Lashes are full, fluffy, dense, and spiky, and are the standard. I have never seen references that did not use either lenses or lashes, and it usually has at least one of them at all times. Even in a lot of references that gals are like, oh, this is a no lens, no lash look, oftentimes they'll have like the blue contacts with the mascara, or if they're not using contacts, they are using lashes, and somehow people can't tell that you're using circle lenses or that you're using lashes when they're more on the natural side. And every time someone tries to go, oh, you don't need lenses or lashes, here's a reference, and I go, that has lenses, or that has lashes. Like, what do you mean? You're not proving your point. Now, if you really can't do lenses and you really can't do lashes, the best way to look gyaru without these things would to be go extreme everywhere else. Do Yamanba or do Manba. The dark panda eyes, to where you basically just color your eyelid in completely black and go white on the like outside all the way up to your eyebrow, white all the way down your cheeks, throw on some stickers. You don't need lashes and contacts to look like that and for it to read as gyaru. If you do really heavy whites, really heavy darks, and you tan to the gods within a reasonable amount, that can make you look very gyaru without lenses and without lashes. But if you want to do something more subtle and you are not comfortable with going that extreme, they are both a requirement. Even for me, my makeup does not look right without them. Now, let me take them out and I will show you the impact. Okay, excuse that my eye is red and crying, but you can see there's a massive difference in the way my eyes look, and the only thing I did was take out my contact lens as well as take out my upper and lower lashes. This is what my upper lashes look like, and this is what my lower lashes look like. Now, the lashes I use to achieve this look are the uppers are the S rank from Decopada. These are phenomenal. These last me all year. These are my favorite lashes, and I probably will stick with these as long as they're in production. And my lowers were recommended to me by Ari, which is the owner of Decopada shop. She is in the works of making a lower lash, I do believe, but these are the ones that both of us use for the meantime, which is a pair from AliExpress. I can put the link down in the description below. And for contacts, I shop at Pinky Paradise, and if you guys want, you can follow the link down in the description to my Pinky Paradise affiliate link, where you can both support me as well as get 10% off your next lens purchase. This is why I always say lenses and lashes make or break a look, because this is my normal gyaru makeup. Pretty, right? Dolly, gyaru. And then this is what it looks like. That's a big difference. So this is why I always say they're very important. Okay, let's get back. I really hope that this helped with anything else that you might be wondering about gyaru and cleared up some confusion and simply helped you understand gyaru trends. Please consider subscribing to support me, as well as stay tuned for the next videos in the series. After watching both part 1 and part 2, if you have any other questions you'd like me to cover, please ask them down below. If it is a little bit more of a complicated answer, I will be answering it in the next video, of course. Thank you all for so much love and support on this series. If you also have any interest in cozy games or anime style games, and you just seem to like me for some reason, consider checking out my streaming and gaming content. I work really hard on them, and I would really appreciate the support, because I still dress like this, I still look like this, I'm just out there playing games instead of teaching you how to be gal. If that's not something that interests you, I will see you in the next part of Gyaru 101. Bye!